This episode may contain content of a graphic nature, including descriptions of physical and sexual violence against adults, children, and animals. Listener discretion is advised. Hi, everyone. I'm Talia.
And I'm Tanya.
And together we are TNT Crimes and Consequences, a true crime podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Hi, Tanya.
Hi, Talia.
What's up? The story I have for our listeners today is going to include 5 911 phone calls. This is an event that had a lot of witnesses. It's an amazing true crime story, but it's really interesting. It's heartbreaking. Okay, before we start, I want to just ask every person if they want to maybe hit the subscribe button so you can get our weekly updates. That would be awesome. Everyone stay tuned. At the end, we're going to have a promo from one of our podcast friends called Ivy League Murders. So you ready?
Absolutely.
Let's go. The story takes place in 2008 on January 17th. At approximately 3 p.m., a young man named Nathan Lee, left work, and he headed back to his 3-bedroom home in North Point, Florida. When he got there, he found his 2 young children, Noah, who was 2, and Adam, who was 6 months old. They were together in one crib, which was really unusual. Even more strange, his wife, Denise Amber Lee, she was 21, she was nowhere to be found in the house. The doors to their home were locked, but Denise's keys, her purse, and her cell phone were still sitting on a chair in the living room. Nathan had just spoken to Denise a few hours earlier at around 11 o'clock while he was on break at work. During that conversation, she gave no indication that anything was wrong. The two spoke for about 5 minutes, mostly about the weather. It was January, but it was really nice that day, so Denise had said that she was going to keep the windows open in the house. When Nathan got home, he noticed that the windows were shut, but they weren't locked, which was weird. And the house was really warm inside because it was an unusually hot day. Nathan knew something was immediately wrong. There was just no way Denise would leave their 2 little boys at the house alone. At 3:29 p.m., he called 911 to report his wife missing. And here's a clip of that call.
Northport Emergency?
Yes, I'm at 7912 Latour Avenue. I just got home from work, and my wife, I can't find her. My kids were in the house, and I don't know where she is. I've looked every single place.
So that's a brief clip of the 911 call. He's not desperate at that point, but he's obviously very concerned. Not long after he made that call to the Sarasota County 911 operator, a detective named Detective Morales showed up at Nathan and Denise's home, located on Latour Avenue. The 3-bedroom house they had was in a semi-built subdivision, so there weren't that many houses there, and it was kind of a rural area of North Point that was being developed. Denise's parents originally didn't want her to move out there because it was kind of rural, but that's all they could afford. They were both only 21 years old, and so they were high school sweethearts.
Aww.
They literally knew after a few weeks of dating that they were in love, and Nathan gave her a heart-shaped ring that she never took off after 3 weeks of dating.
Oh, that is so cute.
Isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And you will see they had a really good relationship. So when Detective Morales got there, he didn't see any signs of a struggle or anything that suggested any sort of violence had occurred. Next, Nathan called Denise's father. He was a sergeant in Charlotte County, which is the neighboring county to Sarasota. Denise's dad's name was Rick Goff, and he wasted no time putting together a statewide hunt for Denise. He was able to get helicopters and patrol officers out immediately to look for her. The first thing police did was begin to canvass Denise's neighborhood. They got their first clue from a visitor that was staying at Denise and Nathan's next-door neighbor's home. Her name was Jennifer Eckert, and she told police that around 2 p.m. she was watching television and she could see through the window a green Camaro, quote, creeping up and down the road going very slow, end quote. The Camaro had a black car bra.
Okay, I know what that is.
Yeah, it's that casing in front that's supposed to protect them from damage. It's called a car bra.
I know. When you first said it, I was like, what? But then I know what it is, yes.
Ridiculous name for that. So she described a green Camaro with a car bra that appeared to be like a 1995 edition. And this is 2008, so it was an older car. Jennifer said this Camaro circled the streets at least 4 times and probably 5. At first, she thought the driver was lost, so she actually got up off the couch and went outside, thinking she could help him figure out where he needs to be. Jennifer walked outside. She made eye contact with the driver, but he pulled into Denise's driveway. So Jennifer assumed that's the place he was looking for, and she went back inside. She sat down, she watched TV for about 10 minutes, and then Jennifer went back outside again. When she did, she saw the green Camaro pulling out of Denise's driveway. She couldn't make out who was in the car, and it didn't speed off. There was nothing suspicious about it. It just left. It was there at Denise's house for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then it was gone. While police were desperately searching for Denise, Michael King showed up unexpectedly at his cousin Harold Muxlow's house around 6 p.m. Michael was a young plumber who was the sole provider for a little boy. He had been married, but his wife left him. He was a homeowner, he had a steady job, and he randomly showed up at his cousin Harold Muxlow's house. He parked his car on the opposite side of the street, across the street from Harold's house, and he had his car parked where the passenger side door was the farthest from the house, so it couldn't be seen from Harold's house, but the driver's side could. Michael got out of the car and he went up to Harold and asked him if he could borrow 3 things. He needed a flashlight, a gas can, and a shovel. Michael explained that his lawnmower was stuck in his front yard and he needed the tools to help get the lawnmower out.
He needed a gas can to get a lawnmower out?
Maybe his lawnmower was out of gas, too.
Maybe.
The 2 men walked to Harold's tool shed and they got the items. They just made some small talk along the way, kind of bullshitting. Once Michael got the tools, he headed back to his car. As Harold was walking up his driveway to go back to his house, he heard a woman scream out from the car, quote, "Call the cops," end quote. As I said earlier, Michael's car was parked across the street. When Harold heard that, he turned around and he started walking down his driveway again. He yelled out to Michael, "What's going on?" Michael lifted his head from beside the passenger side of the car. He lifted it up and he replied, quote, "Nothing, don't worry about it," end quote. So Harold started walking towards his house again, back up his driveway. But curiosity got the best of him. And he turned around and he walked to the edge of the street towards Michael's car. There he saw Michael crawling over the console of his green Camaro while pushing the head of a woman down in the back seat. He could see the silhouette of a person's knees rise up, but then Michael immediately climbed into the driver's seat from the passenger side and he sped off in his green Camaro. This was just 4 blocks from Denise's house.
Wow, 4 blocks.
4 blocks from home. At first, Harold convinced himself that this was just another domestic argument between Michael and what he was sure was a new trashy girlfriend. Because, as I said, Michael, he'd been married before. Him and his ex-wife had a volatile relationship. She abandoned Michael and his young son. And Michael had a history of bad relationships. Even knowing all this, what Harold witnessed just didn't sit right with him. Right after Michael drove away, Sarasota County Sheriff's Department received a 911 call. It was from Denise.
It was from Denise?
Denise. While Michael was driving, she somehow managed to sneak his phone away from him and call 911. During the call, which I'm going to play in a few minutes, Michael has no idea what's going on. And to set up this phone call, it's apparent that Denise is blindfolded or has duct tape on her eyes. She has something that's making it so she can't see. She must have snuck the phone and was maybe laying on it because she can hear 911, but Michael can't. It's going to be a little confusing, the phone call, because of that. You'll hear this 911 operator talking to Denise. Denise is talking to the 911 operator, but she's trying to act like she's talking to Michael. She's blurting out answers to 911's questions while trying to make it fit into a conversation with Michael. Michael's voice can be heard on this 911, but it's difficult for you to understand him. He's got music playing loud. So I'm going to just tell you a few of the things he says that I think is inaudible. He's asking her, "Where's my fucking phone?" She asks him if he's going to let her go, and he says, "No fucking problem." Then he says, "I was going to let you go, then you fucked around." He gets mad at her for yelling out in front of Harold. He's got to up things now because of what she's done. He taunts her by saying, "You know, we were exactly 4 streets, well, maybe 5 streets from your house." And eventually, he does realize
she's on the phone.
She's on the phone.
Oh, no.
And another part that I'm going to say, because I don't think it's completely clear, as at one point, Denise says, "Please, my name is Denise. I'm married to a beautiful husband, and I just want to see my kids again."
Oh, really? That breaks my heart.
I'm going to play it.
Hello?
I just want to see my family.
Hello? Hello?
Please, I just want to see my family again. Let me go.
Hello?
Please let me go. Please let me go. I just want to see my family again. Okay.
Hello?
I'm sorry. Please let me go.
Hello?
I'm sorry. Please let me go. Please let me go.
Hello?
Please let me go, God, please.
Hello?
Help me.
What's the address?
Help me.
What's the address that you're at? Hello? What is the address that you're at? Hello, ma'am?
Where are we going? I gotta go up to the mountain now. I'm going around where? Can you see it? Exactly 4 streets, 5 streets over from your house. I couldn't everywhere.
What's your name, ma'am? Hello?
Please.
What's your name?
Please, my name is Denise. I'm married to a beautiful husband, and I just want to see my kids again.
Your name's Denise?
I'm sorry. Please, God, please protect me.
Are you on I-75?
Where are we? Please. Please, please.
Where are you at? Can you tell if you're on I-75?
don't know where your phone is. I'm sorry. Can you just tell me where we are?
Are you blindfolded if you have pressed the button?
I don't have your phone. Please, God. I don't have it. I'm
Denise?
sorry.
Do you know this guy?
I don't know where your phone is. I'm sorry.
Denise, do you know this guy? She might have the phone laid down and not hear a thing I'm saying, too. He keeps saying on the phone.
I don't know where it is. Maybe if I could see it, help me find it. No, sir.
Denise?
What is the story?
How long have you been gone from your house? How long? Do you know how long you've been gone from your house? What's your last name? Lee?
Yeah.
Do you know what street? Your name's Denise Lee? Can you tell at all what street you're on?
No.
Do you know this guy that's with you?
No.
You don't know him from anywhere?
No, please. Oh, God, help me.
What's your address? What's your home address, do you know?
I don't know. Please just take me to my house. Please just take me home. I'm okay, please.
Can you see or do you have a blindfold on?
I can't see. Where are we?
Can they turn off the radio or turn it down?
I can't hear you. It's too loud. Where are we? Are you going to help me? Are you going to let me out now? Help me.
Literally the minute after Denise's call went to Sarasota County 911, they received another call regarding her kidnapping. This time it was from Harold's adult daughter, Sabrina, who was second cousins with Michael. Harold had been so bothered by the incident with Michael that he called up his daughter and talked to her about it. And she was concerned enough to call 911.
Go ahead, caller. Yes, what's the problem? And the girl came got out of the car, and my dad's cousin went and put her back in the car. And when she got out,
okay, where's your dad's house?
It's in Northport.
Where would he be going with this female?
He came over to my dad's house, borrowed a shovel, a gas tank, and something else.
Okay, we've been looking for this female. You are just so wonderful to call us and give us this information. Okay?
Yeah.
After Harold talked to his daughter Sabrina, he then decided to drive over to Michael's house to see if Michael was there and to see if in fact there was a lawnmower stuck in the yard. When he got there, he found neither Michael's green Camaro nor a lawnmower in the yard. Harold decided it was time he called 911, but he wanted to do it anonymously, and I'm not sure why. So instead of going back to his house, he drove to a payphone, and he placed his own anonymous call to Sarasota's County Sheriff's 911. The time was 6:50. Here's a clip of that 911 call.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
I'm not sure exactly what the emergency is exactly, but I think there's somebody that's been taken without their, they don't want to be where they need to be.
Uh-huh.
And we're in a 95 green Camaro from Northport somewhere.
Okay, and how do you know this?
I know.
Is he going to hurt the girl?
No idea.
You saw them, though?
Yeah.
And where was she?
Okay.
In the car? Was she okay?
And she didn't look like she wanted to do that.
By the time Harold actually placed his 911 phone call, the police had already arrived to Michael's house. When Denise called 911, the police weren't able to trace her exact location because Michael's phone was a prepaid month-to-month phone, so pinpointing the exact cell tower location was more difficult with that type of phone back then. However, they were able to find out who owned the phone number, and that's how they were able to find out Michael's address. When they got to Michael's house, they too found it empty, like Harold. However, they actually went inside his home, and when they did, they discovered some really horrible things. They found what was later described as a rape room. I don't know exactly what was in it. I know there were bindings on a bed, and I know there was duct tape. It was never fully described. I know out of respect for the family, a lot of the exact details were kept hidden from the public, but they could tell that this room had been used and that Denise had probably been held there for hours. While they were at Michael's house, another 911 call came in from a woman named Jane Kowalski. She had just crossed from Charlotte County into Sarasota County. So this 911 call got routed to Charlotte County 911 instead of Sarasota County like the other ones had. Jane was driving on her way to visit some relatives in Tampa, and she was stopped at a traffic light on Highway 41. While she was waiting for the light to change, she heard someone screaming and, quote, a commotion coming from the Camaro next to her. Jane described the screaming as, quote, horrific, terrifying. I've never heard anything like that in my life, end quote. As she watched the man driving the Camaro turn around, she could see he started pushing something down in the back seat. As he would push down, she could see a head rise back up, and then there was banging really loudly on the passenger side window. Jane made eye contact with the driver, who was Michael King, and she knew instantly something was going on and it was very wrong. When the traffic light turned green, Jane hesitated because her intent was to have Michael, who was in the lane next to her, go forward so she could get the license plate number, and then she was going to call 911. However, Michael refused to move. They were basically at a standstill. Then Jane moved really slowly forward, thinking that would make him move forward. She basically had no choice but to move at some point. So she started going forward. And then Michael quickly switched lanes and pulled up behind her. Now, they were supposed to be going 55 miles an hour, but Jane was only going 35 miles per hour, hoping that Michael would get annoyed and pass her. But he just slowed down too. He knew she was onto him. When Jane realized that Michael was not going to pass her, she called 911. Here's a clip of Jane's 911 call. And it should be noted that Jane thought that the person in the back was a child. She thought that she was reporting child abuse. So here's the clip.
911, where's your emergency?
Well, I'm on 41 going south, and I'm going to do a cross street right now. I'm on Chamberlain. I just crossed Chamberlain. I'm on 41 going south. And I was at a stoplight, and a man pulled up next to me, and there was a child screaming in the car. Not a happy.
What kind of vehicle was he in?
It's a blue Camaro, in the 90s or early 2000s or something.
The vehicle had a white male driver, and there was a child screaming in the car.
And banging on the window, okay.
I've got everybody hollering at me, and just 1 second.
He's going to turn left on Toledo Blade. He's turning left right now. Do you want me to turn? Try to follow him, or?
Okay. Does he want her to follow him? Okay, can you turn?
He just turned on Toledo Blade. I don't know if I can catch up. There's a bunch of traffic, and I can't get over.
At the time of Jane's phone call, there was actually a police officer on that Toledo road. But unfortunately, the operator who talked to Jane didn't enter the tip into a computer database during the call. Instead, she shouted it out across the aisle to another person who acknowledged the tip. However, the person that acknowledged that they got the tip, that person forgot to send the tip out and forgot to dispatch any police.
Oh, are you kidding me?
No. Nope.
Damn.
In fact, the police weren't even aware of Jane's phone call until 2 days later.
Oh my God.
Do you smell a lawsuit?
Oh, for sure, right?
I'm going to play for you a little bit of the dispatcher explaining what happened that night and how the tip was forgotten.
Oh, I can't wait for this.
Someone's life depends on that information.
What was the first information you received that day about Denise Amber Lee?
In the afternoon, we were advised that Denise Lee had been kidnapped, and we were given a description of Mr. King and his vehicle.
If you're sitting in the call taker position, can you dispatch a call?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
I don't have a radio. Everybody was talking in loud voices. We had a supervisor that was trying to patch our radio frequencies with Northport radio frequencies. We have a dispatcher that believes her radio isn't working at the time. She's standing next to Liz, giving Liz verbal information I thought that I'm giving her. We have Liz on the radio with I don't know how many officers speaking to her.
A second 911 operator also tried to explain what went wrong with the 911 call.
Not a handwritten piece of paper that I don't know was legible, not legible. It looked like it was neatly written, but I don't know if it was a sentence structure. I would have had, it's easier to read from the computer. That's how we have done it. Put a call in the computer, everyone sees it, the information goes out.
So those were two clips explaining what happened to the 911 call regarding Denise.
I am incensed.
I'm guessing from what they're saying, it was orally given and then written on a piece of paper that was legible, not legible.
And it was supposed to go on a computer instead or something?
Grammar sentencing was off.
I don't know. It was a weak excuse.
I'm sure they feel really awful. But we don't know the outcome of the story.
No, we don't.
Jane wasn't the only one on the road that heard Denise's screams. A guy named Sean Johnson, he was stopped at a traffic light. I don't know if it's the same one Jane was at. And he kept hearing a woman's voice screaming over and over again for help. The sounds were coming, of course, from a green Camaro. He looked over at the driver, and it was Michael dripping with sweat. But Michael refused to look at him, instead just looked straight ahead. At that time, Sean was on probation, and he was actually driving back to the halfway house he was living in. He wasn't allowed to have a cell phone. He couldn't stop to a payphone, or he would have gotten in trouble because they monitor his time. He was concerned about it. When he got back to the halfway house, he started minimizing the seriousness of the situation. Until later on that evening, he spoke to his wife on the phone and he told her about what he'd heard. And she made him call 911. But I don't have that call. At about 9 p.m. on the same day that Denise was kidnapped, Deputy Christian Weimer and State Trooper Edward Pope were posted at the Toledo Blade Boulevard near Interstate 75. And they were looking for a green Camaro. Because there was that be on the lookout, BOLO announcement. So everybody, all the state troopers, all the local police, they all had a description of the car, the license plate number, Denise's driver's license photo, and Michael's driver's license photo. And remember, that's the road Jane said Michael turned down. At around 9 p.m., a green Camaro drove from Toledo Blade Boulevard onto the on-ramp of I-75 southbound. Trooper Pope followed the Camaro, and eventually he did what's called a felony stop. He placed his vehicle in a tactical position, and he drew his weapon. He ordered Michael to exit the car. Michael refused. The fifth time, Pope ordered him to leave the car, and Michael refused. Pope said, listen, I'm going to shoot you if you don't get the hell out of this car. So Michael got out. When Michael exited the vehicle, he was wet from the waist down. He had mud resin on the bottom of his shoes. He was wearing jeans that, like I said, were drenched. And he was wearing a camouflage pattern shirt. He must have changed his shirt since he saw Harold, because when Harold saw him, he had a white shirt on. And so at some point, he changed his shirt. Officer Pope observed on the Camaro bra hair strands and what appeared to be blood and pellets. A viscous sap-like substance was also present on the bra of the car. Inside the vehicle, Trooper Pope observed a gas can on the passenger seat and a cell phone battery on the passenger side floorboard. He also saw a blanket in the back and the ring that Denise got from Nathan.
Oh, the heart-shaped one?
Yeah, in the back seat.
No.
He went to the trunk to see if Denise was in it, but she wasn't. The Camaro got towed to the North Point Police Department, and they looked at it some more. When they did, they saw a shovel with dirt caked on it in the back seat. There was Denise's palm print on the outside of the driver's side window. Her hair was found, as I said, on the outside of the Camaro, and it was also found in the back seat. On the blanket that was in the back seat, there was Denise's blood, and it was also on the front bumper. But the police still didn't have Denise. A search warrant was obtained, and a really thorough search was done of Michael's home. Before I get to what is all in Michael's house, we're going to take a quick break.
Hey everyone, if you go to our website, tntcrimes.com, you can find full unreleased episodes available for individual purchase. You can also join our membership where you get unlimited access to all of our unreleased episodes and early releases, mini episodes, and so many other awesome things. So go to tntcrimes.com, and thanks again for all your support.
In the master bedroom, which I told you was referred to as the rape room, there was a yellow blanket that was covering the window. There was a Winnie the Pooh blanket, pillows, duct tape, wads of duct tape with hair still attached on the floor, and all of those items contained Denise's DNA. In Michael's kitchen was an intact roll of duct tape located on the bar area. There was a garbage bag in the pantry that contained more duct tape with hair still attached, again, matching Denise to the exclusion of 1,000,000,000,000 to 1. There was semen found on the Winnie the Pooh blanket mixed with Denise's blood. After Michael's arrest, he refused to cooperate with authorities. Harold came to the jail and tried to convince Michael to tell them where Denise was, but he refused. Some point during interrogation, Michael claimed that he did have consensual sex with Denise and that she was killed after being shot by someone from a helicopter.
Oh, okay.
That's plausible.
Sure. A helicopter?
I think that's the best he could come up with. We're not dealing with a full deck here.
This is ridiculous.
On the very next day, January 18th, a volunteer looking for Denise, he searched an area of land near Plantation Boulevard in North Point. It was a swampy area in which construction had started and then they abandoned it. So it was desolate with abandoned construction around. In that area were two small piles of sand that just didn't look right. Eventually, a forensic team was sent out to investigate the area. Crime scene experts believe that blood had been on the ground and that someone, obviously being Michael, had covered it with sand, so the sand had actually absorbed some of the blood. The police began excavating the area on the 19th, and as they removed the earth, they noticed scallop marks, which were consistent with a round nose shovel digging straight down into the earth. After digging 3 feet and 1 inch, the nude body of Denise was found laying on her side in the fetal position.
Oh.
There was water in the hole. It was clear she had been shot in the head. I was so sad to hear that because there was just so many opportunities to save her. And she fought so hard. I mean, how brave did she have to be to call 911?
From in the car. I know. This is heartbreaking.
In the grass near the gravesite, they found a single 9mm shell casing. A couple hundred yards away from that, they found a pair of Nathan Lee's boxer shorts that Denise often wore. And next to that was Denise's shirt. Michael's semen was found on both of them. Of course, an autopsy was done on Denise. They found bruises on her thighs, but her cause of death was the single gunshot wound to the head. But this part is even more upsetting. From what the medical examiner could find, he believes that Denise wasn't blindfolded when she was killed. And in fact, the gun was placed against her head by her right eye. Given the location of the entrance wound to the right eye, the records say the way the demise of the right eyebrow was, the medical examiner concluded that Denise saw and felt the gun and knew what was going to happen.
Oh.
It's just so sad. So when the gun was fired, it caused Denise's right eye to explode, which is how the sap-like substance got located on the car bra.
That was her eye?
Mm-hmm. That was her eye.
Oh, my God.
Ocular fluid. There was aspirated blood in Denise's lungs, which indicates that she didn't die right away. There were 2 pieces of duct tape that were caught in her hair, bruises on Denise's wrists, which were consistent with ligatures, and she also had defensive wounds. Of course, there was vaginal bruising and anal tearing as a result of a violent rape. Eventually, Michael was tried for the first-degree murder and rape of Denise Amber Lee. The jury convicted Michael of first-degree murder, involuntary sexual battery, and kidnapping. So the next phase was to determine if he should be put to death.
Yes.
Because it's Florida. You just want to hang everybody.
I do. I would be the worst juror ever.
I know, me too. I think everybody's guilty. As soon as I hear their name, like, oh, he did it.
Oh, he did it. If you get arrested for it, you did it. Even though we know that's not true.
Not even close. So the question is, should he be given death or should he be given a life sentence? Michael's defense team hired experts who claimed that Michael had suffered from a brain injury when he was 6 years old. Apparently, he got into a sledding accident and actually did sustain some frontal lobe damage. His siblings testified that his behavior changed significantly after that accident. But I mean, he was only 6. So
I was just going to say, come on now.
He's only 6. At the age of 13, while acting out a cartoon, Michael nearly killed his brother with a bow and arrow. Oh. When he was 17, after watching the movie The Texas Chainsaw Massacre...
Why are you showing this to him?
He got a chainsaw and started chasing the family members with it with no facial expression whatsoever on his face. But, as a prosecutor pointed out, he was able to get custody of a son, hold down a job as a plumber. He owned his own house. I mean, he was going into foreclosure, but he was able to function like everybody else. Eventually, the jury unanimously decided on death, and Michael King is sitting on Florida's death row right now. Denise's family filed a wrongful death suit against the Charlotte County Sheriff's Department. But eventually they settled out of court for $1.25 million. Half of that money went to Denise's children, and the other half was split between her parents and Nathan. And of course, the attorneys took a nice chunk. I'm just going to say that. I know the number, but they took a nice chunk. Nathan started the Denise Amber Lee Foundation, and they have a website, and I'll put the link in our show notes. Their mission is to, quote, support and promote public safety through uniform 911 training, standardized protocols, quality assurance of 911 calls, and technological advances to 911. The foundation wants to use the emotional power of Denise's story to motivate and inspire 911 personnel to remember why they do what they do. I got my information from the court case, from DeniseAmberLee.org, and that's it.
Wow. Thanks for that, Leah. That was a really, really sad story. And I hope the Denise Amber Lee Foundation does a lot of good work, because it's important that 911 personnel is trained properly and they have people's lives in their hands. So really, I mean, literally.
We welcome everybody to go to our website at tntcrimes.com or Instagram or our Twitter or our Facebook. It's either going to be TNT Crimes or TNT Crimes Podcast. You can see pictures of Denise. She is so super cute.
She really is.
And
there's one with her little boys. I just feel sorry for them.
Such a strong woman. Also, if you guys want to become a member, you can get online-only episodes just like this one that are exclusive to our members. And they can also get to participate in our live episodes, early releases, bonus episodes, episode extras, whole bunch of things. So you can go to patreon.com/TNTcrimes to become a member. If you just want to donate, you can go to our website, because we don't get paid to do this. But we like to do this, but we like to get paid to do this.
That would be wonderful.
So we would appreciate it if you guys wanted to just take a second. You can go to our website and buy us a martini, a beer, or a glass of wine.
And you can also purchase our Patreon episodes on our website if you are so inclined.
Yeah, they're online exclusives.
Yep, and you can do that at tntcrimes.com.
Tiny little fee.
Tiny little fee.
You won't even notice it. Well, thank you, Tanya, for being you and being here with me today.
Don't forget to check out the Ivy League trailer right after our closing music.
Thank you again, Talia, and until next week.
Thank you, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome to Ivy League Murders. The Ivy League. They are the 8 most prestigious colleges in the nation. And as we've seen recently, people will do or pay anything to get their kids into them. When you hear Ivy League, what comes to mind? Is it the hallowed halls of education and tradition? Professors in tweed coats pontificating about Walt Whitman? Elitism? Finals clubs? What you probably don't think of is murder. On this podcast, we focus on cases affiliated with the Ivy League, exploring the darker side of higher education. What happens when genius becomes evil? We deep dive into the stories behind the picture-perfect Ivy Leaguers who appear to have everything and throw it all away. And for what? Love? Money? Obsession? My name is Sarah Alcorn. I'm a Harvard graduate, and I've been a private investigator since 1999. Join me and longtime crime diva Laura McDonald for Ivy League